just to preempt the hairdo, one thing I talked to my therapist about is like making the first step, right? Like when you have a lot of things you got to do, or even if it's just one thing, I often find it very hard to like motivate myself to do things. And
Mhm.
we always focus on the first step, right? That's usually the hardest part. I'm also talking to him about my drinking. And one thing I find very strange is like how much more energetic and motivated I feel when I've been drinking. So one thing I've wanted to do for a long time is like practice cutting my own hair, which sounds like a nightmare. But it's something I've wanted to do because just basic grooming, I should be able to do it. I want to save money on haircuts. I go and get my haircut. I never know what to say. I'm never satisfied, blah, blah. I was like, I'm just going to learn how to do it myself. But I've never really had like the balls to start.
That's
So
fair.
the other day I was quite drunk and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to cut my own hair, that's the worst time to cut your own hair.
I
But
had a thought, and not because I know you, but because I know, I guess, some of your situation from us talking.
mm,
Um, and I mean, I've been guilty of this. When you go through like life changes, big life changes, usually like breakups is what preempts this. A lot of people want to like new
make a
me, new
change,
life,
yeah.
so like they like do drastic things to their hair. I know the last time I cut my own hair, I cut it into this really rad mullet, and it was really cool, but I 100% owned it and was like, I'm stress cutting my hair right now because my son's father's trial was the
Mm,
next day.
yeah.
So, and looking back, like every time I've cut my hair or done dumb shit to it and dyed it and whatever is because things are happening in my life. So I was wondering if that was like kind of a factor there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The new me thing, like it's almost like a symbolic thing trying to move on, right?
Hmm.
Is essentially what motivates the hairdo. I mean, it's like one of these things that lingers. It's like, oh, would I look good with what do they call it? Like side cut or whatever, I'll try that. It's
Hmm.
like, for me, if I let my beard grow real long and I want to shave it, it's like, yeah, I'll get myself a handlebar mustache, see what that looks like. I'll rock the goatee for a minute. It comes in stages, so you just kind of experiment. So yeah, that's what I
No,
was
that's
doing
fair.
with my hair. I was like, I'm going to practice cutting it for myself. I'm going to try a new look, and I had the what I call the tomorrow belongs to me look, the like blonde, the
Yeah.
blonde like neo-Nazi look. And I rocked it for like a
It was
day.
okay. It was just really orange. You just needed toner.
Yeah. Oh, that was another thing.
Atlas has come to say hello
Oh
again.
yeah, I love that dog, and he's a puppy and he's gigantic. It's like
Yeah.
Great
I
Danes are so
even put
funny.
my okay, so I had to put my desk up too because my phone, while my laptop is charging, won't connect because they use the same hole.
Okay.
My phone's only got two holes. One of them is for charging
This is getting
and connecting
sexy.
things. Right? Can't do both. So I had to put my desk up, and he's still this tall. Like it's at what I would use for standing right now.
Does he have an opinion on mental health? Well, actually,
I think his opinion is that mom is really happy when she pets me, and she gets really mad at me when I chew her underwear.
yeah. Why do dogs always go for the underwear? Like that's so weird. I mean, I
I
don't
think it's
really want to
because
know why,
like
but
well, there is scientific like proof, and I've read articles about it. Um, Dogs specifically go for women's underwear because the like proteins and enzymes in your discharge are very attractive to them because it holds like the number one thing that makes up your human smell.
huh, it's like yeah, a comfort thing or something. Maybe they just want to eat
Yep.
your
So like, how do dogs get to know each other, and like, how do they identify each other? It's by the smells
smell.
from their anal glands, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very similar thing in humans where like dogs want that closeness to their owners, and they can't just go around smelling our butts all the time. So
Yeah.
they will get the next best thing, which is the thing that touches our butts.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's interesting. There's a dog.
I want you to
These
lick my
folks
face.
I
Burp on me. Stop it. Get down.
these folks I used
Oh,
to
that
have
was a stink bug.
dinners with, this, that, they had a dog. It was quite an older black lab, I believe. And he would take people's shoes And I think it's
Atlas
kind of,
does my shoes too. Like
I
I
guess
have
your
to keep them
feet,
outside.
your feet kind of sweat and take on the smell, and
Hmm.
they do seem to hone in on things that have smells. But you know what though, owning a dog or a pet is probably very good for your mental health. Like, I mean, I always love spending time with dogs and stuff like that, but I've heard that petting a dog or a cat helps lower your blood pressure, it helps calm you down.
Hmm.
um, Pets can be very therapeutic, and I guess
The
there's
reason
the
I got a dog is because I was really struggling with my mental health and identified what was causing it, and worked with my therapist to understand that a pet would fill that void and that it was a good, healthy choice.
yeah, I mean, the companionship, there's probably a safety factor there, certainly with a big dog, right? The
He
familial
is
thing.
such a suck. Like, if he will jump on the burglar, but he won't bite the burglar. He'll be like, play with me, play with me, play with me, play with
Yeah,
me, please, please.
yeah. I've been trying to convince my parents to get a dog because they're kind of getting up there in age, and I was like, I would feel
Oh.
better if you guys had like a great big German Shepherd or a what are those? There's
For
somebody in my
old people,
neighbor.
short-haired dogs, because there's so much involved in like just cleaning up after them when they have long hair, like German shepherds and stuff like that. Like even Atlas, I cleaned up, like pulled his cage out of the corner, his kennel, last
Yeah,
night, and there was so much hair built up just like around the edge of it against the wall, and I cleaned it last week.
I
I mean,
mean,
partially like he's shedding because it's, the seasons are
it's getting
changing, but
warmer. Yeah,
I can only imagine what that would be like if he was a long-haired dog.
yeah. Like I used to babysit for folks that had 3 golden retrievers. It was like,
Insane.
that was
Their
a lot of
entire house
hair.
is made of hair.
Yeah. Well, my,
Like, they don't just have a hairy house, their entire house is made of hair.
yeah, my parents they have 3 cats at the moment, and
God.
they they clean, like the human living spaces get cleaned a lot, but there's areas that are more like cat living spaces, and it's like, yeah, they'll have a towel that they lay down on, and it's just fur. It's just like a nest.
Hmm.
I wonder if
They
I
say
don't know
that
if
if you have like long-haired pets, specifically, that when you like groom them and stuff, you're supposed to put the hair outside so birds can use it for their nests.
I've heard that as well. I think that's cool. It's nice to the
Ow.
birds. I've seen the
Yeah,
videos
you're
of
getting really
birds that
close to the
will.
point where you're gonna go back in your kennel because I can't handle you right now.
He's
Too
causing
much.
stress.
Too much. Just ate
Puppy.
too, so he's like,
Oh, he's got
I need
bad
to
breath.
pee, I need to poop, I need to do all the things, mom, and I want all of your attention because I just woke up from a nap.
Aw.
Like he really is like a toddler right now. It's wild. I'm
Yeah.
glad I had a kid first because this would have stressed me the fuck out.
Yeah.
As I have not had a human experience of this yet.
It can be kind of like training, I guess. I don't want to look at it that way, but I almost think of I've got it's not a Roomba, but it's the same thing. It's a little robot vacuum cleaner. And
Yeah,
that thing,
yeah.
it feels like a child, because as soon as it wakes up, it's got its routine. It does. As soon as I hear it come on, I'm like, oh, I got to run around and clean up all the cables. You know what I
The
mean?
stuff
It's like,
that it shouldn't suck up.
yeah, it's like, and sometimes it gets stuck and I have to go, free it. It's like, it's kind
Oh,
of like looking after a baby or a toddler or something.
I think one of my favorite TikToks ever was like someone was at the grocery store or something and got a notification from their Roomba, and it was like whatever they named it, stuck on a cliff. And then they came home, and I guess they have like a little bit of a step down in between the 2 levels of one of the rooms, and the Roomba was stuck on
Yeah.
the side of it. So it just gave them the most dramatic possible notification.
Yeah. My Roomba, it's so weird because it's like, it's a robot, right? It's not thinking. You don't expect it to get into a creative problem or something. But my Roomba, it's so weird. I have some weights on the ground, and they're in a plastic thing that's got a handle that's just off the floor. And the Roomba has somehow got itself wedged in between this handle and the floor.
And the floor, yeah.
Like with its wheels off the ground. It's like, how? How? It makes no sense to me. But I guess it's just kind of like proof that you can't possibly foresee every single little issue or whatever, right? Like with dogs, with babies, with Roombas, they will find those unexpected little whatevers
with other human beings.
other human beings. they'll get into them. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
Do
Come on.
it.
I usually give him these like baked banana cookie things to get him to go into his kennel. That's like our bedtime routine. And I am out. Gave him the last one last night. Oh, look at that. Have treats in my hand. Don't even have to ask.
He just runs over there.
He 100%. He was like, oh, mom's going towards it. All right, let's go. Bet.
It's interesting. Like training animals, it seemed like a magic to me when you see people that
consistency, right?
Yeah, consistency.
Same,
but if you don't know the
train
tricks,
yourself.
yeah, it's true. Like I've seen videos where people train their pets to do crazy things, especially like cats. Cats to me seem so stubborn. It's like, how do you train a cat to do anything? It blows my mind.
How to play hockey with bottle caps.
Oh, and it swats it back.
Not only swat it back, would play defense.
Yeah, that's cute. I can't get my parents' cats to play at all. Feather thing in front of their face. They just stare at you. The only thing
about like how some cats are, I guess, like forced desensitization from humans. Like that specifically sounds like they've seen enough birds that they know that that's not a bird.
Yeah, they were like, when my parents got them, there's two sisters, and they've had them since they were very tiny, so they grew up like in the lap of luxury, and they're very much indoor cats. But then the third one they got showed up on the doorstep during a winter storm, and it's notably more feral. It's a lot more active, but also a lot more skittish. And
okay.
It doesn't play so much, but man, if it sees like a mouse, like we call it the catio. It's an enclosed little patio. And we'll put them out there, and sometimes mice get up on there. And if this cat sees a mouse, you see how feral it gets. It's like, I actually have a nice video, I should upload it, of it getting really low and its pupils just, and it was trying to fight with this mouse, and I was trying to get it to go inside, and I like picked it up and like kind of threw it inside, and it came running back out, like just so honed in on this mouse. I thought it was fascinating. Interesting cat. I like the wild one more than the sisters. He's got more character and he's more affectionate. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? My parents have a bunch of cats. I've got nothing. Cats are furry. I'm allergic to cats, but I love them. I'm like, the feral cat they have, if you pick it up, if it likes you, if it doesn't know you, it'll just run away. But once it warms up to you, and if you can pick it up, it will rub its face all over your face. Especially like me and my dad have stubble, and it just goes bonkers. And I'm allergic to cats, so I'm like, I'm loving it. It would just slide right off.
Oh no, I like full grow, like a poor man goatee. If I don't keep it.
Everybody gets like the peach fuzz.
Oh no, it's not peach fuzz.
You get a full-blown goatee.
Full blown, like, I'm not gonna lie, during some of my harder mental health winters, it's grown out considerably, and it full comes in. It hasn't quite connected to the mustache yet. Like we
mine doesn't even do that
in here, but the chin itself and like kind of the underneath here. Thanks, PCOS.
Like for some reason, the first thing that came to mind was like carnival shows.
Where they used to have like the bearded ladies.
Yeah, and it's like of all of the carnate freaks, the bearded ladies probably got it the best. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to like the thalidomide with no arms, or I don't know who are the others, or like I'm thinking of American Horror Story, honestly.
Yes.
The two-headed.
Kathy Bates was fantastic. I love her.
She's great in everything.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a single thing of hers that was like a really big miss.
And she's always, whatever she's in, she's often the best.
Sorry, I just watched my straw change color as I was drinking out of it, like on.
It's like a thermal.
Yeah, so it's blue when it's like room temperature, but then it's purple when it's cold.
That's cool. I used to have pencils that were like that. So you would hold it and then set it down, and you could see where your fingers were.
I took Zephyr to Dave and Buster's, and they give the kids like they have like a kids menu, and on there's like some slushies and milkshakes and stuff. And the one that he likes to get comes with a thermal straw, and he thought it was the fucking coolest thing ever. So I was out at the dollar store one day, and we don't use plastic straws in this house. We don't use paper straws because those are fucking garbage. We use just like reusable. I have silicone ones and metal ones,
Yeah.
and then I have reusable plastic ones for my Starbucks stuff because they have to be extra long. But I saw these ones at the dollar store, and I was like, Zephyr would absolutely love these. They are an absolute nightmare to clean.
Yeah.
But we love them.
Yeah. Well, if it brings you joy, it's worthwhile. Pardon me. Yeah, it's interesting what things are fascinating when you're a little kid. Like I do remember my little thermal pencils and just thinking that was the coolest thing. And
Yeah,
as
when
an
I was a
adult,
kid, I would have been like, yo, that's so lit.
yeah, and just
Let me
thinking
touch
like,
it.
how does it work? You know, just
Mood rings. Mood rings were huge in the 90s.
mood
Kids
rings.
were just like, whoa.
And the idea that like you couldn't tell how you feel, you would have to look at the ring. Oh, I'm upset. You know, that's just so backwards. You know.
Yep.
Actually, kind of an interesting way to talk about checking in with yourself and seeing how you feel. You know, it's like instead of having a mood ring, you should have like a biological mood ring of something. You know what I mean? Like instead of giving
I
kids...
think as an adult human now who's like really hyper aware of their mental state at any given time, because I just have to be, because my life will implode without it. I've kind of developed like a personal mental mood ring, you know, like it's not like a physical item or tool that I use. It's just like the way I check in with myself.
Yeah. The habit.
Yeah, like even in that situation right there with Atlas, like I wanted to be okay with it, and I wanted to be like, okay, I can do two things at once. We did this last time, it's fine. That was too much. Okay, sorry, buddy. Like you gotta...
Yeah. And instead of flying off the handle, you sort of like approach it civilly and diplomatic, you know, instead of being like, Atlas, fuck off, you know, freaking out.
Well, I mean, like there's certain days where I absolutely would do that because I don't do those mental checks and balances, or I don't catch it fast enough, and I let myself get frustrated. Happens to me with work stuff all the time. And I say this to my boss every time I talk to him. I'm like, thank God I don't work in the office with everybody else. A, because I'd be super disruptive. I'm constantly talking and moving, and like
yeah,
I have to have like music playing while I'm working, or like the TV's on playing like a show that I'm just kind of like listening to in the background. And like I'll turn it off when I take calls with stores and customers or whatever, but I need that like constant stimulation.
Yeah.
And from what I understand about the office situation is that it's very quiet, and that I would be incredibly distracting. But on the flip side of that, you know, without considering the other people around me, I constantly am talking to myself like, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. That's so stupid. Like working through my own frustration about other people, you know, and like, could you imagine doing that out loud in a in an office setting? Hell no.
It could, I could see it being distracting for other people. Yeah, but that's funny. The little things we do, what is it? Is it to like, it's a bit of relief to be like, why did they do this? Like, I do this weird thing where I kind of try to amuse myself, or if I got something on my mind, I'll just make noises, usually like farting noises. I'll go like, and it's just like, if I've got something on my mind, I'm like, you know, it's like doing a shake or something. It's like, I'm just going to do something silly to change my mental state. You know, I just make some farting noises or something to amuse myself and distract me from whatever is bumming me out. I'm reminded, we were talking about like mental health in movies and stuff, and we've talked about Honey Boy before, and I'm just remembering in that movie, is he in rehab, or he goes to some kind of counseling center, but do you remember he's got like the rubber band, or he's got like a band around him, and anytime he gets stressed out, he kind of snaps it. And I remember
that's a really old adage. I remember, you know, that was like the new thing that, you know, counselors and mental health professionals were telling people to do in like the early 2000s. And it was kind of based on the precipice of, or precedent? I don't know what word I'm trying to use.
The precipice?
That wasn't the right one.
The concepts or something?
It was based on the idea that you could Pavlov yourself into not having these kinds of thoughts, because the negative reinforcement teaches your brain, don't do that.
Oh, I thought
Which
it
I
was
thought was like really counterproductive.
I thought it had to
Not
do
really
with
my favorite approach.
grounding. I didn't realize like if it was like a minor pain thing. I thought it was like instead of being in your head, you've got this kind of snap that like forces you to be present. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's evolved a little bit.
I think from like the conscious thought perspective of that, yes. But from the subconscious, like how does that affect your overall personality? It absolutely is using negative reinforcement to stop that thought. Like people do it with dogs all the time.
Yeah.
I have one for Zephyr, or not for Zephyr, for Atlas, it's a clicker. And like if he's doing something, all I have to do is click. And we've gotten to a point now where I don't even have to use the clicker. I make the sound with my mouth.
Yeah.
And he stops, you know? And it's not because we did like painful reinforcement of those, but like every time he would, you know, look like he was going to eat something he shouldn't be eating, or he was sniffing up on the counter or anything, click.
Yeah.
You know, like when we're doing treat training or those kinds of things, if I say sit and he doesn't do it and he lays down instead, click. You know?
Yeah. It's, instead
so
of like smacking him or something. Yeah.
Right. So I think the elastic is a good, I guess, kind of like way to train yourself to be more present in your thought, but it's a really negative way to do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking
it
about
associates pain with those types of thoughts, which isn't super productive to just like human mental health in general.
What the heck's the name of that movie? It's a Stanley Kubrick movie. Oh, A Clockwork Orange.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I've seen it a million times.
It's been a little while for me. I ought to watch it again. I can't think of the character's name. He's played by Malcolm McDowell, but he's like a really
the main
violent
character. His name's Alex.
Alex, yeah, that sounds right. He's like a really violent delinquent for the first half of the movie, and then he goes to like a rehab center, and they force him to watch violence. I think I forget exactly what they
violence. It was like violent sexual acts as well.
Yeah, it was kind of like the behavior he's been engaged in, and they force him to watch clips of it, presumably for like months. And they're like dropping liquid in his eyes, but the
LSD.
idea is
it was LSD.
Was it? No way. They were dropping LSD in his eyes?
Yeah.
I gotta watch that movie again. It's been a long time. But that's kind of like the filmic representation of what you're talking about, is like the negative reinforcement, like causing him pain. I think the idea is that they're trying to associate him feeling ill when confronted by these images, and that will subconsciously make him hate those behaviors, right? The violent things like that. And I've heard this as an approach for things like smoking and drinking and stuff, where they try to make you feel ill. Where did I see that?
It's the same kind of concept. It's as like there's a nail polish you can use that you put on, and if you chew your nails, it tastes disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, that same kind of negative reinforcement stuff, it doesn't work. It works in the short term, but the effects that it has on your psyche long term are so detrimental. And like we've seen it used in different modalities across all kinds of stuff. The same kind of mentality is used in the approach of I don't know what the socially acceptable term for this is, but like the religious based camps for people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, to try and like, what are they, aversion therapy, is that what it's called?
That sounds right.
Try to make you not gay by
conversion therapy. Or
that's it, conversion therapy
things, whatever nonsense.
Those are the same kinds of tactics that they use in that, and we have found through, you know, documented cases over time that it doesn't really work. It just causes people a lot of trauma that then makes them, I guess, avert themselves from situations of interaction with other human beings.
Yeah, it just causes other problems. You know, you've kind of just moved the problem or hidden it or something. You know what I mean?
You've made more problems. You didn't solve the original one, and you made more.
Yeah, it reminds me of how often you hear about, a political figure that's campaigned against homosexual rights and things like that, and then you find out that they are a homosexual themselves or whatever, right? Like the kind of repression that people put themselves through, you know, whether it stems from growing up in a religious family or some other prejudicial mindset, those people go on to do a lot more harm to other people as well as themselves in an effort to repress their own, what you might call, natural thoughts and notions and things like that. Like
a great example of exactly what you're talking about is Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Think about how they came into the first half of that movie and then everything they went through and then immediately go to war. Like, that's exactly what you're describing. That's a great depiction of how that process happens.
Yeah, like I'm like watching that movie in my head real quick, reminding myself of everything that happens. Like when they get to the ending of that movie, or kind of towards the ending, where they're deciding if they're going to kill the girl, the little girl sniper, and it's like everything they went through at the beginning had nothing to do with this situation at all,
but was supposed to prepare them to make that decision.
Yeah, it's like
the whole
indoctrinating
intent
them.
of everything that they went through was to get them to make that decision.
You will respond with violence. You will assert your superiority or whatever, you know, and they make the decision, right? Like I should go. It's been a long time since I watched that movie.
That's another one of my absolute favorites. I remember the very first time I ever watched it, I was high as fucking giraffe pussy. I was so high. Oh my god. And I thought
what an awful movie to watch high.
I thought it was a fucking fever dream. Like, I remember waking up the next day and going, was that real? Did I actually experience this? Okay, let's watch it again, but not high this time. And it was real as fuck.
That's funny. I have a very similar experience with what's it called? Not In the Heart of Darkness. That's the book it was based on. Oh, Apocalypse Now. I watched that one.
A great one to watch high.
Obliterated. No, it isn't. It's traumatic. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
There's scenes in that movie that I had to pause it. I'm like, am I still watching the same movie? Like, what is happening? That movie is fantastic. And I
really love movies that give you that sense of disorientation. You know, like where you come to a point as a human being and as the viewer where you're like, is this real life? Is this real life right now?
Yeah. How did we get here? You know what I mean? Like,
right? So good. Because I feel like it almost snaps you out of that like regular sense of security that you have, and you start to question everything around you that human beings tend to not do often. Like, we've literally built our entire society to not have us do that.
Yeah, I think not enough people spend enough time slowing down and thinking about the things around them. Like, I feel like the decisions have all been made for so many people. Are like, I'm going to get up, go to work, do my thing, get my Starbucks. You know, it's just like they know exactly what every day the next 10 years is going to look like, you know. There's benefits to that, sure, but it's not me.
And then I don't know. The mentality of that is a great idea, but the downfall of it is that any small inconvenience or change to that immediately disables that person.
Yeah, it can be there's a cognitive dissonance term there. Whatever. Running out of time already. What the hell? Didn't we just start this?
Diggity dang, yeah, we did.
What was that? We were talking about movies and I had one of mine that was so good.
This really quickly turned into less of a mental health podcast and more of a movie podcast.
We've talked about all sorts of stuff today. I'm going back to our list of movies, trying to remind myself of things that, talking about like crappy representations of mental health in films. Do you know the movie?
A lot of those too.
You know the movie Identity? Have you seen that? It's from, God, it's probably 10 years old at this point, maybe even more. Could be, God, is it 15 years old? But the idea, the film presents itself as kind of like a murder mystery where there is,
Okay.
I think it's like a kind of like a truck stop. It's like a diner gas station situation out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a horrible storm, and 12 or so people are kind of trapped there,
Hmm.
and they can't leave. And one by one, they start getting picked off, and they're like, "Who's killing them? You know, what's going on?" And then the big reveal at the end of the movie, spoilers, is that all of this is happening in the head of someone that has multiple personalities, and the personalities are killing each other off until there's only one left, and then that becomes the dominant personality in the person. And
Ah,
it's
okay. That's kind of, so I watch Doom Patrol, which is a DC comic based
I've heard
television
of that,
show.
yeah.
Brendan Fraser, lots of really great actors. There's one character who experiences something very similar to what you're describing.
Yeah, where they like their multiple personalities have like a battle royale style combat over the host body or something. Yeah.
I think Split is one of the ones I have on this list of like problematic portrayals of like actual diseases versus mental health crises.
That is one, I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot about it. And isn't that one where like his body changes depending on who he
Yeah,
is? Like,
yeah. I think so. It's Split is part of a larger part of like comic book universe. So it's based on Unbroken, and that one was like Bruce Willis back in however long
yeah,
ago or
quite a
whatever.
good movie. I like that movie a lot.
It was fantastic, and I think at that time people didn't realize it was based on a graphic novel.
I don't
And
think I even knew
then
that.
after that came Mr. Glass, which was like the kind of second part that featured Samuel L. Jackson's character from the first movie. And then Split has the character from Mr. Glass and is like this other thing. And I think that what the hell is his name? The actor guy that was in Split.
Who,
He's like
James
a young dude.
McAvoy?
Yes.
He's great.
Fantastic actor.
I love
Love
him.
him. I think he did a fantastic job in the film, but I think the narrative that went along with it was really problematic.
Mm. Yeah, because that, what I understand of that, it's so weird to me that it's Samuel L. Jackson essentially playing the same role uh in what's his character in MCU? He's got the eye patch. He's like
Oh,
the commander kind of guy.
shit. What the fuck is his name? He's one of the agents of Shield.
Yeah, but he's the one that kind of, he sort of unites all the heroes, right? But then
yeah, this is kind of the same, but like he does it on purpose because he wants them to like battle it out
yeah,
because he's got like narcissistic personality disorder.
yeah, and he himself is very frail,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he likes Bruce Willis, because Bruce Willis is like invincible. It's weird. He, in 2 movies, he plays a guy that unites superheroes. I think that's funny.
But he did it with DC first.
Go DC.
I'm a big DC fan. I like Marvel stuff, but DC is my jam. I felt like a lot of their quote unquote heroes were mostly just like normal people who had, you know, traumatic things happen to them and rose to the occasion. At least, I guess, in a broader sense of DC, not so much, but like Batman was my jam. And a lot of the things and the villains and stuff in Batman were just like regular ass people. They didn't necessarily have superpowers or
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
anything crazy. They were just dealing with what they had.
Well, one way to frame the whole Batman thing is like, I've heard other people present it this way, where Batman is a billionaire capitalist that spends his nights fist fighting mentally unwell people. You know,
Yeah, that's
like
exactly it. That's an accurate representation.
that's,
He's also a
that's
trained
exactly
ninja. So like, if you want to talk about superpowers, that's his superpower, is that he's a really, really rich ninja.
Yeah.
Who has a penchant for fist fighting people in dark alleys.
But he himself he's mentally unwell. I guess he's as much a victim
absolutely
as the people he's fighting.
It's
arguably.
like PTSD. There's definitely some like narcissistic personality disorder traits in there. Certainly some like, I guess you could say like manic depression would be a I think, bold claim, but not necessarily inaccurate.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it can be tough too because there's so many iterations of them, right? Like
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like the Nolan ones. Those are the ones I think of right away. But as a kid, I
oh, I'm talking about like
remember,
the actual comic books.
yeah, but even then, they get written by different people and illustrated by
Also
different
true.
people.
Also
Yes.
true.
So those things evolve, but I think consistently, yeah, he's been a billionaire that beats up mentally unwell people. I think you're right. I mean, I'm not the biggest comic book fan, but the idea that in the DC comics, they tend to feature regular people getting involved in things, right? Like Batman's he's not Superman, right? He's not an
Mhm.
alien with superpowers. He's just, you know, rich.
Well, I
And
mean,
then,
like, I never viewed Superman as someone who had superpowers. He's just an alien. Like Clark Kent is an alien.
yeah,
To him, those powers are normal. Like
yeah,
everyone from Kryptonia or wherever the fuck he was from, I don't remember what it's called. Like they all have shit like that.
yeah. But it's not based on reality or whatever.
No, not at all. I think Marvel tried to relate to human beings more, like the light side of things, and they tried to, I guess, direct youth perception of the world around them with
Mm,
more gusto. Like DC tends to be a lot like darker and grittier and kind of like almost expose the darker sides of like how humans perceive the world around them, where I felt like Marvel was kind of like the opposite of that. Like they try
yeah,
and show you the good parts of humans and like show you the good parts of people through this like hero narrative where, and like almost like the idol hero, whereas like DC was more the begrudging hero. Like
the
I'm doing it because I
anti-hero. Yeah,
have to, not because I want to.
yeah. I mean, with like DC, I think is owned by Warner Brothers, so that's kind of their shtick, is they make like grittier, sad, not necessarily sad, but
And then they
the
have
darker
Looney
stuff.
Tunes.
Yeah. We maybe should restart the recording, but I think it would be interesting to talk about like escapism in media and stuff like that. Like, what does that offer us for our mental health? Because I know MCU is crazy popular right now, and as you mentioned, it sort of provides a bit more uplifting, optimistic outlook on things,
Mhm.
whereas I think DC tends to dwell on the less pleasant things. Do you have time
I
to
think
do another half hour, 40 minutes?